with the bros and you know we'll be mobbing. Had the cut ties in December, we tried it. You so-called friends you be with, they be lying. I am not saving no hoes, I won't dive in. Yeah. I don't give a fuck about where you from, who you be with, I don't care. The bitches that's fucking with me, man, I give them the truth, I don't dare. You tryna collab with me, I make it look easy like ABCs. I count up the money like 1, 2, 3. I don't give a fuck about my enemies. I float on this beat like I'm Molly, a corny nigga here I'm talking about. He's a nobody.
Welcome back to another episode of A Day in a Sports Life. I'm your host, Dejan King. The WNBA playoffs is back, and we have a lot of enticing games coming forward this weekend. As the WNBA playoffs works, 8 teams out of the WNBA season makes the playoffs, ranked from 1 through 8. It doesn't matter which side of the conference makes it, but it's just the top 8 teams. And the biggest story in this playoffs is the reigning champions, the New York Liberty, and the runner-ups, Minnesota Lynx, are back in the playoffs. Is there a potential finals rematch brewing? We'll have to see. The playoff seedings from 1 through 8 goes: Minnesota Lynx are the number 1 seed, Las Vegas Aces are the 2 seed, Atlanta Dream are the 3 seed, Phoenix Mercury is the 4th, New York Liberty is the 5, Indiana Fever with the 6th seed, and the Seattle Storm is the 7th. And in the inaugural season, Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs for the first time with the 8th seed. Now, as the matchups goes, we have the Lynx taking on the Valkyries. You have the Aces taking on the Storm. Then you have the Dreams taking on the Fever, and then Mercury taking on Liberty. These are some very competitive matchups going into round 1. And round 1 is the best of 3 series. For our first matchup, just to give you some backstory of the teams, the number 1 seed Minnesota Lynx finished off the season 34-10. And this team is playing with a chip on their shoulder. Now, losing last year in the finals to the Liberty 4-1, this team is coming back better than ever. Napheesa Collier is a top 2 MVP running versus A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces. Now, the projected starters going into this playoff matchup series, you have Napheesa Collier, who's averaging 23 points per game, 7 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks per game. The biggest thing with Collier is that she is just the second WNBA player joining Alina Del Donning to register a 50-40-90 season, shooting 53% from the field, 40% on three-pointers, and 91% from the free throw line. Now, Minnesota is averaging the most points per game with 86.4 in the WNBA and has the best offensive and defensive ratings in the league. The keys that the Lynx have is their depth. The weaknesses is that they don't have that much size. So if they're matching up against bigger rosters, that could give them some trouble. Now, when you look at some of her support, she has Courtney Williams, who's averaging 13.9 points per game and also 3.5 assists per game. Now, she's also shooting from behind the arc at 40.9%. And also players on this team that's helping out is Alana Smith and Bridget Carlton. So when you look at this Minnesota Lynx team, they actually have a really good opportunity of making the finals again and possibly winning it this year. Now, when you look at the eighth seed, the team that they're matching up against, that is the Golden State Valkyries. Now, the biggest thing with this Golden State Valkyries team is that they are an expansion team, the first expansion team since 2008, which was the Atlanta Dream. Now, this is their inaugural season in 2025, and they had an expansion draft to acquire players onto this Golden State team. Now, this is the first franchise to make the playoffs in their inaugural season. Now, you might wonder, why can this team compete for a championship? Well, this team is built on defense. They are the 4th best defensive rating in the league at 99.9. And they hold opponents to 76.4 points per game. That's the fewest points per game. Now, you might ask yourself, why can't they win? One of the worst attributes to this team, their weakest asset is that their offense is horrible. Now they average the worst. They average like the worst points in the league at 78.3 points per game. Now you might ask yourself, why can't this team do it? Well, they have one of the worst offenses in the league. Now they average 78.3 points per game and they shoot only 41 point percentage from the field. That's in general. Their leading scorer is Veronica Burton, and she averages 12 points per game, 6 assists per game, and then 4.4 rebounds per game. Now, the reason teams should fear them is because Golden State is built off of grit and tenacity, and their ability to overcome adversity is why I think that they can match up against this Lynx team and possibly pull out a victory. Some supporting cast for this team with Veronica Burton. She has Cecilia at the forward position. She has Janelle. She has Ilana and Temi at the center position. Now, the biggest thing, like we said, is that this team is not scoring a lot of points, so they're going to have to really play some really good defense versus the Lynx. And my predictions in this first round series matchup, I do have Minnesota winning 2-0 over Golden State. Now, I think it could potentially be a 1-1 series after the second game with Valkyries pulling off a win in game 2 at home. But I do think that the Lynx are on a mission this year, and this will be a minor defensive test for them, and they will overcome it and advance to the second round. In my second matchup, we're going to talk about the Las Vegas Aces taking on the Seattle Storm. This right here is going to be a very fun matchup. Both teams have star players throughout their roster. The Aces look to get back to the finals for the first time since back-to-back championships 2022 and 2023. The Aces are riding a 16-game win streak entering the playoffs. The last loss was versus Minnesota Lynx, which was a 111-58 loss on August 2nd. Asia Wilson has been incredible all season and is inching closer to her 4th MVP award. One of the big liabilities was losing Kelsey Plum. That was a difficult adjustment for the Ace, and they started the season off 14-14. And after that, they haven't lost since. The fatal flaw is their early season lapses in effort, and defenses has been corrected. But sustained success depends on the entire team maintaining recent defensive intensity alongside Wilson's Defensive Player of the Year level play. So when you look at this team with Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Lisa Smith, and Bell at the forward position, they're going to really have to play some defense in this matchup taking on the Seattle Storm. When you look at the Seattle Storm team, you got to ask yourself, what's on the line? Seattle Storm in 2024 acquired key assets to help them win. Now, their expectations were a championship team, but with no playoff wins last year, it's been rough for them going into this year. They've finished 23-21. You got to ask yourself, well, how can this team win? You have 4 all-stars and an underlying metrics, including better differential than Vegas until season ends. You got to think about how this team can really compete. Seattle, they look strong at some points taking on opponents, but their biggest strength is it relies with Nikika. Nikika is a really good offensive player. She averaged 18.3 points per game, and she also has assets like Skylar Diggins, Gabby Williams, and then also Brittany Sykes on her team to help her out going into this playoff push. But then you got to look on the defensive end. She has Ezzy, who can also help her out with getting rebounds with 6.2 rebounds per game. In this matchup, though, I am taking the Aces with a win. I do think that Seattle Storm will surprisingly win the second game at home and will tie the series up, but ultimately I have the Aces winning 2-1, and they will pull it out in game 3. My third matchup I want to talk about, this one right here. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Only if Caitlin Clark was available would I believe Indiana Fever has an opportunity to pull off the win versus Atlanta Dream. The beauty about this Indiana team is that they're ferocious, man. They overcome adversity. And with Aaliyah Boston being the leader of this team and just really helping them out, just being that player that can get the rebounds and score consistently, I do think there's an opportunity for this team to win. But let's talk about the Atlanta Dream first and why they could win. Now, Atlanta closed out the season strong, winning 15 of their last 18 games and setting a franchise record with 30 victories this year. Their record was 30-14 going into the playoffs. And the biggest thing for this team is that under this new identity for their coach, Carl Smesko, the Dream boosts their offense of average for 84.4 points per game and 110.5 rating, while maintaining the league's top defense at 100.5 rating. So this Atlanta team, you don't take them lightly at all. The biggest thing with their depth is that despite their injuries, Atlanta's depth has shined. Hellman has emerged as a sixth player of the year favorite, and Brittany Griner has embraced a bench role, and Caldwell has been a versatile contributor. Now, with Brittany Griner coming off the bench, she's also averaging pretty decently with 9.8 points per game. But Alicia Gray is one of their biggest assets, scoring 18.4 points per game, and also Ryan Howard at 17.5 points per game. Now, the biggest thing is that can Brianna Jones come into play? Can she stay consistent? Can she dominate the boards how they want her to dominate it in the playoffs? And if so, I think this Atlanta Dream team can coast to the second round easily. But when you look at the other side of the metrics, when you look at the Indiana Fever, the reason this team can win is because of their star players like Aaliyah Boston and Mitchell. They have a resilient core with the Indiana Fever. When one player gets injured, just another player steps up and can take care of that role with the amount of guard depth that this team has. Now, throughout the season, they lost 5 players and they were just able to adjust to DeWanna Bonner's departure. And also, one of the biggest things that this team has chemistry, okay? These women know how to play together. Their fatal flaw is their injuries. Now, their ceiling was uncapped, but with the amount of injuries that this team has sustained, it is definitely lowered significantly. And we're just going to see how players like Kelsey Mitchell, how Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston can play in the playoffs and manage their load and just get this team to a victory and to a first round victory in advance to the second round. It's going to be hard losing Sophie Cunningham to a torn MCL in August, losing Caitlin Clark early in the year with a groin injury. It's just going to suck. Now, when you look at Caitlin Clark, she played 13 of 44 games this year. Imagine what this team could have done if she was there on the court. And inside the games that she's played, she actually finished with an 8-5 record. This team is 24-20 going into the playoffs. But if they had Caitlin Clark, who knows? They could have won 30 plus games. And I think the loss of Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark is definitely going to be detrimental for the Indiana Fever. And as much as I want to select them in this first round matchup over the Dream, I have the Dream winning 2-1 over the Fever. I'm still very high on the Indiana Fever. I think we're looking at a potential WNBA finals team going forward, but I have the Dream winning this 2-1 and advancing to the next round. And for our final matchup, possibly the best matchup of the first round, we have the Phoenix Mercury with the 27-17 record taking on the New York Liberty. Both teams carrying in a 27-17 record. We have the 4 versus the 5 seed. Both teams have star players, elite players on the scoring end, consistently scoring. Might be some of the highest scoring games that we get in the first round. Now, when you look at the Phoenix Mercury, what's on the line with them? All right. This team hasn't won a playoff game since firing Sandy Brondello after losing in the 2021 WNBA Finals. Now, they have aspirations to get back to the finals, but first, they have to get through Brondello's defending champion, Liberty. when you think about this right here, the defending champions Liberty is no team to play with. And when you look at Mercury, the reason they could win is because players like Alyssa Thomas, she has thrived when Phoenix is spacing the court, and she delivered her career best season with a record 8 triple doubles. While the Mercury combined with elite shooting depth with unusual size. I mean, when you look at this team, they have a lot of size and depth. A player like Kalia Cooper, who's averaging 15.9 points per game. And they have Satu Sabali with 16.4 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game. But then it's Monique Makani. She has 7.7 points per game and then 2.7 assists she averages. This team has a lot of depth, but it all comes down to Alyssa Thomas. This is their dog right here, okay? Their dog. You're talking about 8 triple doubles. This woman is averaging 15.7 points per game, 9.3 assists per game with 9 rebounds per game. She is going to be the key deciding factor if this Phoenix Mercury team can pull it off. And I honestly am very confident in them to knock off the defending champs. We'll get to that prediction soon. But when you look at this New York Liberty team, the one thing with them is that they're the defending champions, okay? They know what it takes to make it to the finals. And they have regained a lot of those players that helped them win it last year with Stewart, Jones, Sabrina, Cloud, and the midseason addition of Messaman. The Liberty boosts an unmatched star power and depth. They truly are a super team if you think about it. Their major flaws is their injuries and inconsistency, which derailed their early dominance. This team started off the season 9-0, and then they went 5-5 to close the season out, including 4 losses to playoff teams in general. Now, the X factor with New York is that only recently they saw a full roster together. If chemistry clicks, the Liberty have the talent to repeat as champions, but that remains an open question taking on this Mercury team. And surprisingly, I had the Mercury winning 2-1 over Liberty and eliminating them. So that means going into the second round, I do have the Mercury advancing, the Dream advancing. I also have the Aces, and I have the Lynx. So right there, I mean, this WNBA playoffs right here, if you're tuning into it, it's actually going to be very interesting, okay? I think if you watch these women play, we're getting the top 8 teams in the league. And one of the most intriguing stories that we have is that the Golden State Valkyries making the playoffs in their inaugural season is something to watch out for. You have to pay attention to this team. I mean, they're very fun to watch, especially defensively. And I'm very excited to see what happens in this playoffs. I'll try to tune it as much as I can, and hopefully my predictions pan out. I don't know if I have a prediction right now as the team who can win it. I think definitely Minnesota is one of those teams you have to watch out for. But when you look in that middle part of the pool, Las Vegas Aces. That is the team that is very scary, okay? You're talking about coming into the playoffs off of a 16-game win streak. All they know is winning now. So going against the Seattle Storm team, which I think is going to be very competitive, I do have the Aces winning it 2-1, but they possibly can squeak out of this with a 2-0 victory. We'll see. And tune into the WNBA playoffs. I think it's going to be very exciting, and there's a lot of storylines that are going into this that is going to trickle into the second round and hopefully a really enticing finals matchup. But once again, this is a day in a sports life, and I'm your host, Dejan King. I hope everybody enjoys their Sunday and also have a great next week. Take care.
Be with the bros and you know we mobbing. Had the katans in December, we tried it.